Okay, the way you propose unmoderated caucus is easier than moderated caucus, actually. Not easier, but more simple. For example, me as the delegate of Cameroon, okay? Okay, this is how we do it. The delegate of Cameroon would like to propose an unmoderated caucus for 10 minutes, or for 20 minutes, or for 15 minutes, whatever. But it's how to do that. Okay. Okay, these are the tips and tricks for unmod. First is be diplomatic, listen to other delegates, don't cut someone when they speak, and then try to create the block, but in an ethical way. And then don't be too dominant. Be diplomatic, listen to others, and try to create the block, because that's the goal of unmoderated caucus. Okay, and this is the consultation of the whole. In a simple way, it is a combination between unmoderated caucus and moderated caucus. Okay, so it's like you speak in formal setting like moderated caucus, but it's not limited by time. For example, if in moderated caucus, each delegate can speak only 1 minute or 2 minutes, but in consultation of the whole, a delegate that has the mic, you can speak as much as you want. Either it's 3 minutes, 5 minutes, or as long as it is relevant, you can always speak. Okay, these are the things that they usually talk about in consultation of the whole: technical solution, response to crisis, or working paper and draft resolution discussion. Okay. Okay, how to build a good speech. First one is make sure it's constructive, and having a clear segmentation will be substantive contents. First one should be included: problem identification, counter stances, innovative solutions, and yep, you can just read how to do that. General substantive speech. This is how to make a good, perfect MUN speeches, guys, that you can use either for GSM, counter stances, innovative solutions, and yep, you can just read how to do that. General substantive speech. This is how to make a good, perfect MUN speeches, guys, that you can use either for GSM, counter stances, innovative. Okay, am I audible? All right, thanks. All right. All right, guys. Wait. I will be back to the material. We are almost there. Okay. Okay, this is the time management for your speech. If it's 60 seconds, make sure that the first 15 seconds you explain introduction and background of the issue. And after that, the 30 seconds you explain solutions, and the 15 seconds you write the justifications. And if it's 90 seconds, uh, it's the same, but make the 25 seconds background and problems, 50 seconds solutions, and 15 seconds justifications. And if it's 2 minutes, you can see it's 40 seconds background and key problems, 60 seconds of solutions, and 20 seconds of justifications. Okay, so make sure that your solutions are longer than introduction and justifications. Okay, so like half of your speech, it's linger around solutions. Okay, we use RL. Use RL as a good structure. What is RL? RL is assertion or main claim. Reason is the explanation. Evidence is proof to support your data. It can be quantitative data, international law, or study case. But do not data bomb everyone, which means do not bring too much data. And then link back to conclude your statement, to emphasize your assertion and call to actions. So RL is assertion, reasons, evidence, and link back. Okay. For example, rendang is the most delicious food in the world. That's assertion. That's a claim. And then reason. Rendang had why rendang is the most delicious food? Because rendang has unique spices that blend the meat that is also juicy. That's the reason. What is the evidence of that? As approximately 35,000 readers of the online magazine, CNN have voted rendang as number one dish. That's the evidence. You bring data based on the vote here from CNN. And then to conclude the assertion and these statements, you put the link back. The link back is that is why rendang as the most delicious food should become culinary icon of Indonesia in international events. Okay, that's RL. But besides RL, there is another one speech structure you can use. Okay, it's called HPS. What is HPS? H is hook, or could be quote, wordplay, demonstration, and anything. Hook is like opening to get other people attention, to get attentions from other delegates. You use hook, and then after the hook, you put problems, and then after problem, you write your solution. Okay, so the problem in solution, you include specific call to action and elaborate your solution. Okay. Okay, example of good speech. This is the example of a good speech. First, you say greetings. You greet first, honorable chair and distinguished delegates. And then here's the introduction to or background of the issue. Background of the issue. And this is also background of the issue. And this is the country stance. Austria is always clear on these issues. We are not against immigration. This is your stance, Russian stance, and then you put your solutions here. Just a brief of your solutions. Do not put like the detailed mechanism of your solutions. Just brief points like this. It will consist global cooperation in the form of 1, 2, 3, blah, blah, blah. Okay. That's it. All right. Negotiation and diplomacy. There is diplomatic note or informal note between delegates that speaks for and under the direction of the country they're representing. Okay. Also, there will be notes. Usually, it's in sticky notes. If it's online, if it's offline MUN, there will be like sticky notes that will be given by the committee. But if it's online, you can just use the chat box, guys. Okay. How to send diplomatic notes? Write your note, raise your hand. Then the note passer will take your note, and then your diplomatic note will be delivered to specific delegates. But if you use Zoom for your MUN, you can just go straight to chat box. send it privately to the delegate that you want to send the note. Privately, don't forget. This is what contained in the diplomatic notes. And this is the example. But it can be shorter or it can be longer. It depends on you. This is the type of diplomacy: the pre-diplomacy, front-door diplomacy, backdoor diplomacy, or past diplomacy. But it will be explained in the private coaching, guys. Okay. Okay, we will explain it here. Okay, so if you see, you probably have like delegates group, but it's not recommended because you need to adapt first. I mean, you can build like connections with your co-delegate, with your fellow delegates, but it's not recommended because before the conference, probably not a good idea to interact in the topic or diplomatic substance way. Okay, frontal diplomacy, you address, you congratulate, you appreciate, agree with certain delegates, and you give speech about in GSL during formal debate. But try to actually listen to your solutions during formal debate and appreciate the fellow delegate to build, the better connections or during the conference. Okay, it will be a long explanation, guys, and I don't think that we have times for that. Okay, straight to draft resolutions and working paper. In summation, working paper is like a summary of your discussion during the conference. No exact format or structure, and you don't need to present it. Just discuss it later for formal debate. And yep, this is the example of working paper. If you want to see. Okay. These are also the tips for working paper. Formally discuss it. Make proper structure, even though there is no like specific structure, but make it in proper structure. And do not contradictive with your stance. Make your working paper align with your stance. Also, don't do it with the form that is similar to draft resolution because it will be considered as the pre-drafting. Okay, the last one is draft resolutions. Usually, you will create it in the last day of MUN. Okay, it's a comprehensive document. As you can see, this is the draft resolution. There is an exit format and structure. Okay, you need to present it before the substantial voting. Okay, this is what are in the DR. And you can scan it for the example, guys. Draft resolutions. Okay, I think that will be all for the presentations regarding the materials. I hope it is clear enough. Wait. Okay, guys, thank you so much. See ya.
Okay. Thank you to Sis Nadia Rahma for presenting such a startling review. We will now proceed to our next agenda, which is the Q&A session. For participants who would like to ask a question, please feel free to write in the chat column. And I will read out for our speaker. Okay, from Nashwa Zuhra, looking back at your entire MUN journey, what specific moments, whether during debate, lobbying, or honorary caucus, had the greatest impact on you? And why do you think those experiences stood out compared to the rest of the conference? For Nabila?
Hi, hello. Oh, Kat, sorry. Would you please repeat? I didn't catch your last words.
Okay. Looking back at your entire MUN journey, what specific moments, whether during debate, lobbying, or honorary caucus, had the greatest impact on you? And why do you think those experiences stood out compared to the rest of the conference?
Okay, I think it was during my very first MUN, which is Makassar MUN 2023. At that time in moderated caucus, also, no, I mean, in the entire conference, I didn't prepare it well. That was my first, and I didn't prepare it well. And it was United Nations Security Council. I didn't prepare well, and I got attacked by other delegates. Like literally, as a delegate of Russia, that with like crazy stances, I was attacked. And what I did was like I didn't prepare to attack back. So I grew up from that and I learned that United Nations, MUN is not yapping, only yapping. And yeah, I learned from that to prepare my stances better. And thanks to the delegates that attacked me that time, I grew up and I learned from all of you. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Sis Nadira.
Okay, I think that is all. Yeah.
Yes. Okay, thank you to
Okay.
audience
Thanks.
who
Thanks
participated in
for.
the Q&A session. We will
Okay.
now move on to the next agenda, handing over the certificate to our first speaker. I invite the project leader of the webinar Moral Retention, Arham Shah, to present the certificate. To Arham Shah, time is yours. Okay. We would also like to take a moment for documentation. I will count for three, two, and one. Okay. Now for erect side, like this, three finger like this. I will count for three, two, and one. Okay.
Thank you. Thank you so much for having me. Have, thank you so much. Good luck for your seminar. Thank
Okay.
you.
Thank you so much, Sis Nadira.
Okay. Aku izin live ya.
All right. We will now continue to our next speaker, Brother John Merson Yezua Escaro. Before we begin, allow me to introduce him briefly. Okay. Our second speaker is Brother John Merson Yunzua Escal. He has achieved outstanding accomplishment in the field of modern animation. He was awarded Best Delegate in the ARF Council at the Asia World Modern Animation on November 5th, 2023, the highest honor in the conference. In addition, he received a Verbal Commendation Award in the IMF Council at the Asia Young International Modern Animation on August 15, 2023. Alright, without further ado, let's welcome our second speaker, Bro Merson.
Hello, am I audible?
Yes, you're audible.
Okay. So, should I be the one to present the presentation, or is your team going to present? Oh, okay. It's here. That's perfect. So, okay, first of all, thank you everyone for inviting me in this very prestigious event. I'm actually very thankful for the committee for considering me. I actually don't consider myself as someone who's technically an expert in MUNs, but I put a lot of effort in this presentation. However, I noticed that in the first presentation, it's actually very similar to mine, since it's an MUN 101, but I'll try my best to realign the topics. I want to introduce you to a different angle. And I commend the previous speaker for that very informative presentation. And I hope I can be able to justify or be able to follow her footsteps. So hi everyone, my name is John Merson Waiscaro. You can just call me Mer. It's pronounced as the heart murmur. Something that my parents came up with when I was young. So right now I will be presenting to you similarly to what was presented earlier, the rules of procedures of the MUN, the position paper, and the speeches, which I find it to be my actual it's something that I'm good at, the speeches. So I hope this lecture will be um something that um can leave a mark to every one of you, because I think when it comes to Model United Nations, it's not just about being an academic, it's also about passion. And I know that's very cliche, but yes, it really takes heart when it comes to diplomacy and bringing solutions to the world. So without further ado, next slide, please. So, okay, here's a brief introduction about me. Yeah, I'm the founder of a national organization in the Philippines. It's called the Advocates for Good. And I'm a graduate of the Notre Dame of Salaman College, and I'm an active mooner. And I'm a frequenter to international leadership conferences, which help build my confidence and speakership skills. So, enough of, okay, next slide, please. So, as mentioned earlier by the previous speaker, what is Model United Nations? It is an educational simulation of the United Nations where students role play as delegates from different countries and debate global issues. So, to compress what Model United Nations is, it's basically a simulation. You're copying what really happens within the halls of the United Nations. And that thought really can boost your confidence, because, oh my God, I'm representing a very respectable institution. So when you're joining MUNs, you need to keep your head high. And yeah, that's something that you should learn when you're joining MUNs. So next slide, please. So I want to give you guys a briefer on where MUNs have brought me. So starting with Malaysia, actually it was an unexpected win. I won the Verbal Commendation Award, as mentioned earlier. And then in Thailand, I won the Best Delegate Award in the ASEAN Regional Forum. And also, because of those achievements, I was sponsored by the local government to go to Maldives, where I won the team leader and the most active and engaging delegates with and most engaging delegates, which is not really my personality. And also, chief among my achievements is when I went to Harvard University in Boston, USA, where I won a Harvard Project for International Relations. So basically, um, what we did was to fix or solve a solution for a startup. Like they have a CEO and everything, and I credit that to MUNs because MUNs gave me the ability to be critical in thinking in general. So that's what you should be thinking about when considering having a career in diplomacy. So next slide, please. So yeah, here are some of the photos of in Harvard and everything like that. So next slide, please. Also, I'd like you guys to know what Tag Pinas is. This is my national organization in the Philippines. So we're basically just a group of volunteers. We're not just moon based revolving about, but our primary goal is to use the resolutions and endorse them to local governments. So instead of banking the resolutions, we try to endorse them to municipalities and even our national government. So we don't just bank resolutions because one thing that irks me about MUNs is that after the conference, the resolutions will be just banked somewhere. It will not be used. At least from my experience. But our goal as an organization is to use those resolutions to make a change in our community, in our localities. So yeah, that's something that we are proud of, and I hope that can be applied to many moon-based organizations in the future. So next slide, please. So here's our mission and vision, everything like that. So yeah, you can look at us up in social media. Next slide. Okay, so yeah, that's basically what the organization is about. So next slide. So let's start with the rules of procedure and the session flow. Although this has been mentioned by our very esteemed speaker earlier, but I just wanted to provide you guys a different angle of what MUNs are, at least in my book. So yeah, this is held by my constituents. So next slide, please. This will be very brief. This will be a review. So these are the terminologies that you need to consider in MUNs, like the roll call, quorum, general speakers list, and the two important caucuses. Yeah, moderated, unmoderated, the clauses. Okay, someone commented that the committee should pin the slides so that they can see. Okay. So the points, the working paper, and draft resolutions. I know this has been mentioned by the previous speaker, but again, maybe I can provide you like a different angle on what MUNs are. At least here in the Philippines and all of what MUNs I've attended in the future, in the past. So next slide. So yeah, this is just an imagery of what the rules and procedures of MUNs. It's very simplified. It starts with a roll call, the agenda setting. Typically, we start with the GSL, and then after the GSL, it's either moderated caucus or unmoderated caucus. And my favorite part of MUNs is actually the consultation of the whole. It's like passing hot potatoes because you're going to pass the microphone to different delegates, and they have no choice but to speak. So it's a very challenging part of the MUNs. And then the draft resolutions, amendments, the closure of debates. You guys know about this since it has been previously explained by the previous speaker. So again, my agenda here is to provide you a different angle and maybe add more tips on how you can perform well in MUNs. Okay, next slide. Okay, so again, this has been mentioned before. So the roll call is just about like an attendance, like in school, like when a teacher like calls you for your attendance. But the difference is when you're present, um, you can just say yes, no, or abstain. Basically, you have the choice to be neutral. And the president voting is just yes or no, yes or no. So most countries, like for those delegates who really aim for awards, they choose present and voting because they want to be assertive. And actually, I recommend that. You can uh, But it depends, okay? You have to consider the geopolitical relationships of your countries to the topics at hand. So you really need to think and brainstorm. Do I need an ability to be neutral? Do I need to abstain? Or should I be more assertive? So those are the things that you should consider before answering your roll call, basically. And then the quorum, in a simple majority and in just votings in general in MUNs, um, it will require 50% of all of the present delegates plus one. So that is used in all of the voting procedures. I hope I'm clear with that. But I guess you guys already have an idea since it was explained by the previous speaker. And then when it comes to passing the draft resolutions, basically in research, when you're doing a defense, um, and then you have a panel. So, like 2/3 of the panel should actually agree to pass your paper, like your research paper. If not, they'll definitely fail you, right? So you need to make your drafted resolutions. You need to make them more convincing. However, the thing that I hate most about MUNs is that, to be honest, is that it's a competition. Like, okay, let's say this. No matter how your graph resolution makes sense, when the other block wants to aim for awards, they will actually not vote for your drafted resolutions, no matter how concise, no matter how your drafted resolutions make sense. So I think that is one flaw in the Model United Nations setup because it leans towards more in the competition. And personally, I believe that in MUNs, the delegates should not take things personally. Like if you're from a different block, you're not going to vote for the drafted resolutions of the other block. I think that's one flaw because you need to be uh, the goal of MUNs is to produce as many global solutions as possible. So please not immerse yourself more on the competitive side. Not that I'm saying that it's bad, but please consider all of the aspects. Like when you think the drafted resolutions of the other block make sense, then you should vote for it. Because the essence of an MUN is to produce solutions for global problems. That is your primary goal. But that's just me. That's a tip. So, okay. Next slide, please. I hope I'm making sense. You can ask questions later, okay? Okay, next slide, please. Okay. So here are the points that this is like the privilege for delegates when they're raising points. Like imagine in a classroom setup, when you want to go to the bathroom, you raise your hands and then, Miss, can I go to the bathroom? And may I be excused? Something like that. But in the MUN setup, there's strict rules for you to adhere. Okay, so let's start with the point of parliamentary inquiry. So it is used to ask anything about the procedure if the delegate feels lost or confused. So in layman's term, the point of parliamentary inquiry is you as a student, okay, let's put it in a classroom setup. It's you as a student asking your teacher or the chairs for clarifications. Like that's very normal, right? When you're confused, you need to clarify it with your professor or with your teacher. So, yeah, that's the point of a parliamentary inquiry. And then the point of personal privilege. The point of personal privilege is that example, when you feel sick or the air conditioner is very cold and you're going to request for toning it down. And if you want to be excused to the restroom, you can raise the point of personal privilege to the chairs. So, and then the point of information used to reply if any delegate is objection certain accusations toward the country you are representing in obvious manner. Okay, so the point of information is like this. When a country accuses you of something that is not factual, this is your chance um, to rebut. Like for example, um, the delegate of Senegal would like to raise uh, a very dangerous aspect in the Philippines that all of the islands of the Philippines are full of terrorists. So as a Filipino delegate, you need to like rebut that because that's not true. Like, okay, point of information, to the delegate of Senegal, there's no factual evidence that proves ganyan. So yeah, it's sort of like a debate, but in the form of correcting the delegate that accused you of something. I hope that makes sense. And then point of order, used to object or clarify if there is any mistakes been made in the council regarding the rules of procedure. So this is when I was a chair, I always look for delegates who raise points of order. Because in points of order, you're not just correcting a delegate, you're also correcting the chairs. Like if the chairs have like the wrong decision or they have errors in the rules of procedure, as a delegate, you can correct them. So, as a chair, I'm impressed personally to those who raise points of order because, wow, this delegate really impressed me because they really studied the rules of procedure, reminded the chairs of what is wrong and what is right. So, yeah, you really need to study and put to heart the rules of procedure when competing. Because who knows? The chairs might be impressed with you because you kind of know better. So that's some of the tips I want to provide with you guys. So next slide, please. Okay, so here's the general speakers list and speech. I believe this has been explained earlier, but I just wanted to add like a little bit more context. So next slide. So yeah, it has been explained earlier. What is a general speakers list? It's basically a condensed speech actually of your position paper. Like you need to nitpick the important parts of your position papers and really choose what you need to say in the whole. And then yeah, it the thing about the general speakers list is that it gives everyone the opportunity to speak. If you're someone who is very meek and shy, the chairs will actually compel you to speak, which is a nice prospect because everyone deserves to be heard, okay? And consists of delegates who take turns speaking on topics, ensuring that everyone's voice is heard, yes. And it serves as a buffer for a smooth transition to succeeding sessions. Like, for example, um, the moderated caucus has elapsed. So the general speakers list can be a good transitional mode before we proceed to another caucus. I don't know about the setup in the Indonesian circuit, but in the Philippines, we actually apply this rule. But I just want to put it out there that um, the general speakers list can become a transitional buffer. And then how it works, of course, the chair will open for the GSL. And typically here in the Philippines, we choose 10 delegates. And then, yeah, in the general speakers list, you focus more on the needs, the demands, and what your country is standing for. And I want you guys to remember that you need to set aside your personal feelings. Like, for example, one time I was the delegate of, okay, I'm just going to make up a country, a fictional country. Like, for example, I'm a delegate of Chromatica, and the delegate of Chromatica does not give rights to minority groups. So, as a minority person myself, personally, I do not agree to that. But in MUNs, since that is your assigned country, you have no choice but to fight for that, which is really a challenge for delegates because sometimes you need to set aside your principles. But if you're really aiming for awards of that sort, then yeah, you need to make adjustments, no matter how it hurts personally to you. And then yeah, you you can yield your time to the speaker or you can have a Q&A. I believe this has been explained earlier, so we will proceed to the next slide. Next slide, please. Okay, here's the speech anatomy. I believe this has been also discussed earlier, but to reiterate, the hook. So in the hook, it really grabs the attention of the whole. So just a tip, you really need to modulate your voice. Because I believe when you modulate your voice, it makes like the whole listen. And you can start with a famous quote, like the cliche ones, a statement of your country's dilemmas, or an immediate call to action. But I want you guys to be unique because I think famous quotes or anything of that sort is cliche. So you need to be unique on how you present yourselves. Later, I will provide you an example of a GSL speech so that you can get the verbal commendation award. So that you can have a primer or a briefer of what it takes to be what requires to have a good general speakers list. So yeah, the body, the nitty gritty parts, that's where you present statistics, things like that, and the conclusion. So in the conclusion, it has to be impactful because really in the GSL speech, when because of a performance, many delegates would want to team up with you. So this is really an important factor in MUNs. Yeah. So it establishes command and presence, and okay, will help you gain allies. Yeah, this is what I'm saying. It will help you gain allies. And you will be collaborating with them in drafting your resolution. So as early as now, after your speech, you can really start creating your working paper because yeah, you've gathered a lot of teammates. So that makes it easier for you to do the final output. Okay, next slide, please. Okay, so the moderated caucus, oh, typically it takes 20 minutes. So what you will do is that you will propose subtopics. Like for example, the main topic is about discrimination of women in a country in some sort of that, and then you need to create a subtopics. It can be a problem, it can be a solution. Like in the moderated caucus, the delegate of the Philippines would like to raise a topic on educational crisis in women in the country, blah blah blah. Basically subtopics. I know you guys are familiar with that, like the main point and everything like that. In the moderated caucus, you will raise subtopics. Basically, that's the gist. In here, yielding is not allowed, definitely. And then the unmoderated caucus, it's just very informal. And in the unmoderated caucus, this is where you need to network. This is where you show your charm. Like, that's why they said GSL is important because in the GSL, that's your first impression. So in unmoderated caucus, it will be easier for you to gain allies when you perform as early on in the GSL. So typically, the unmoderated caucus takes 20 minutes. And I believe that if you're really gunning for awards, as early as now, you need to gain allies. But make sure that in creating allies, um, you have to be geopolitically correct. Okay? So, like for example, the USA and Russia cannot be in the same block. So that's a very obvious geopolitical assertion. So you really need to take note of that because the chairs are somehow aware of the geopolitical relationships in in the world, basically. So yeah, you need to be careful. Like you need to filter which countries are not your allies or allies. You cannot form a block with them because the chairs will notice that and probably deduct points. So yes. Next slide, please. Okay. This is really important in MUN. So in the moderated caucus, don't use first person pronouns. And this is only allowed in the unmoderated caucus, at least here in the Philippines. In the unmoderated caucus, you can use first person pronouns, but it's really strictly imposed in the moderated caucus that you cannot use first person pronouns. The safest template is that the delegate of France, like that, the delegation of blah, blah, blah. That's really the safest template. So, yeah. The delegate on. Okay. So next slide, please. So here is an example of the GSL. Actually, to give context, this is my speech during IUMON, Asia Youth International Model United Nations, edition 12. And I was assigned the International Monetary Fund, and then the topic was addressing the increase of global economic downturn to attain post-pandemic stability. So I don't want you guys to focus here on my intro because I believe that's a little bit it's a little bit lame. But what stood out in this GSL speech is that I challenged all of the developed countries. Like I told them that France believes that regenerating the global economy is not the effort of one, but of many. If developed countries recognize the global economic imbalance, but choose not to partake in revitalizing the world economy, then in the sense, they are the problem. So that really caught the attention of the developed countries because, oh, like that really hit a nerve. Like when you're a developed country and you don't care about the world, so you're part of the problem. You have all the power to change the global to change basically the world, and you're not participating. So in the sense, you are the problem. So you really need to contribute in revitalizing the economy post pandemic. So I hope that makes sense. I believe this is really risky, but I believe that in MUNs, you need to put out risks when you want to stand out. So, next slide, please. Okay, next slide. Okay, so the consultation of the whole. So, this is actually my favorite. Like, okay, next slide. Okay, so in the consultation of the whole, like to give you guys a layman's terminology of what it's all about, it's like passing hot potato. Like for example, you're holding a hot potato in your hands and you want to pass it to someone else and they have no choice but to speak. Like for example, the chairs compel you to speak. Okay, we compel the delegate of Indonesia to speak and start the consultation of the whole. And so in Indonesia, the delegate of Indonesia begins their speech and everything like that. And it's actually a very stressful setup because um you like how do I say this? Like the next delegate, they won't know that it's coming. So the delegate of Indonesia would like to uh how do you say this? To yield the speaking time to the delegate of the Philippines. The delegate of the Philippines will be, of course, be in the spotlight. But as Mooners, you really need to be on guard. You really need to be prepared. You have no choice. You are given a lot of time to prepare. So, yeah, whatever happens, you need to speak and use all of the information that you have and yeah, basically just to stand out. You really need to be prepared. You need to study what your country is about, what the topic is about, and what solutions you want to offer. And you can even call out other countries, basically, because you have all the prerogative to speak what's on your mind. I mean, what your country represents. So again, in MUNs, you will only represent what your country's interests are, no matter your personal feelings. So yeah, typically we have 15 minutes in maximum. We allow 5 minutes as an extension, and it can only be applied 3 times, thankfully. So yeah, next slide, please. Okay, in the working paper. So yeah, basically this is like in research, like your draft. Okay, not a draft of resolutions, um not to confuse with the draft resolution. So the working paper is like a draft of your final output. Let's just say that. So yeah, you begin stitching your proposed solutions, the flow of debate, the formation of the block. This is a really stressful drafting, in my opinion, because throughout the drafting of the working paper, you will be debating with your blockmates. Like, okay, I want this solution to be put in the working paper, like blah blah blah. There will be clashes, but you need to choose your own battles. Okay, so maybe put like an input there, like 2 to 5 or something like that. Um, some delegates will feel irked about that, but you have no choice. You need to fight for what you stand in. So yeah, you really need to hold on your guard and be prepared in very emotional and stressful setups. So conflicts, they're inevitable. So you need to prepare yourself emotionally. So okay, the chairs will set a deadline and then no introductions but only discussion, and it should be done in a moderated caucus manner. So in the Philippines, in creating working papers, we actually use docs material so that the chairs can monitor your work, because in drafting working papers, you're not in the Philippines. You're not allowed to do your working paper outside the conference. Yeah, for the sake of honesty, and then in the draft resolutions, this is like your final output. Like let's say it's your research defense. So yeah, this is the substance is the heading, the preambulatory clauses, operative clauses. So there are different terms in the preambulatory clauses and operative clauses, which I will be providing in the next slide. Next slide, please. Okay. So okay. So here, this is the most exciting part, especially when you're gunning for awards, the signatories and the sponsors. So typically, chairs actually source awards from sponsors. Typically, okay? So the sponsors will be the one to present and defend your drafted resolutions to the whole. And the signatories are all of the countries who agreed to the drafted resolutions. But also take note that you can be a signatory in both blocks. Okay? If you agree on what the block one is standing for, you can sign. And if you agree on another block's drafted resolutions, you can sign. But for the sponsors, they need to be committed to your own drafted resolutions. So basically, they're the heads, like they're the research leaders, and they will be put on the spot. And yeah, next slide, please. So here are some of the terminologies you need to draft in drafting a drafted resolution. So we have a preambulatory clauses. So okay, you need to put in the past actions, you need to identify the problems and justification. Okay, you need to follow this format strictly. Italize the first word. You have to use the comma at the end of the sentence, and you should not exceed 1 to 5 pages in total. So, yeah, these are the first words that you need to use in drafting the preambulatory clauses, like affirming, approving, aware of. Again, you need to italicize this. And when you're proceeding to another clause, you need to transition it using a comma. So, yes. So that's okay. Next is the operative clauses. Next slide, please. Okay, so in the operative clauses, this is like the most, I believe, in the most important part in, how do we say this? In the drafted resolutions, because this is action. So preambulatory clauses, they're reaffirmations. They recognize the problems. But the operative clauses are the actions, what we need to do. So the format for this is to underline the first word. And then when so here are the clauses for the operative clauses. I think we're running out of time. So next slide, please. So here are the amendments. So roll call voting, voting acclamations. So the friendly amendments is when it's friendly, you agree to an amendment raised by a delegate. And unfriendly is that you don't agree, so that you'll end up having a debate. Okay, next slide. So the position paper, I think this has been explained by the previous speaker. So next slide, please. Next slide. So here's an example of my position paper. If you want a copy of this, you can just email me. Okay, so next slide, please. Next slide. Okay, we're almost at the end. So here are the tips and strategies, okay? You need to modulate your voices. Some delegates will sabotage you, but you need to choose your own battles. And assume the lead role, okay? And balance all possible roles. Write drafted resolutions, network, and then impress the entire crowd and have fun. Next slide, please. Okay. So I think that ends my presentation. So if you guys have inquiries, here is my Facebook and my Instagram. And next slide, please. That's the email of our organization if you're interested in knowing more about us. So if you have any more questions, just let me know. You can send it via email and all of that sort. Thank you so much.
Okay. Thank you to Bro Harrison for presenting great material exposure. We will now proceed to our next agenda, the Q&A session. For participants who would like to ask a question, please feel free to write it in the chat column. And just read it out for our speaker. Tapi hidupnya kan operator aja namanya. Okay. From Saida Mutmaina. If you have any unique experiences in MUN, and how did you deal with them?
Actually, that's why I try to emphasize later that you need to choose your own battles because in my first MUN, I was actually being sabotaged by another delegate. Like I wrote like no, I wrote like a fraction of the drafted resolutions. I did the networking. I don't wanna I don't want to put myself up in the pedestal, but I really did like 40% of the work. And I expected to be like one of the sponsors, but like one delegate, I was actually really intimidated by him. Like he pointed the finger at me and told me, "You will stay as a signatory. You won't be a sponsor." And I was like, and since it was my first time, so I yielded. Like I need to choose my own battles. Blah blah blah. And so when he became a sponsor, so he was the one who explained everything, and yeah, everyone was left dumbfounded because he really didn't know what to say, and I was like, karma. Like, but yeah, basically just choose your own battles, but you need to be assertive. Like that was one thing I really wanted to change about that. I should have said, no, I wrote most of the work. What are you saying? I should have said that. But past is past. So yeah, you need to choose your own battles, but you really need to defend yourself because sometimes delegates will sabotage you, but that's not fair. So yeah. Okay, next. Since
Okay. Next question. From Andreas Jen S. Since then, this will be my first time joining at MUN. I'm still not familiar with the rules and procedures. As a beginner, how can I make sure I'm following the correct procedure during the session? Will there be someone who guides or gives direction during the session?
so that is a very good question. Earlier I think there was you mentioned that there was an MUN, like the biggest MUN that is beginner friendly. So I believe the chairs will guide you all throughout. Like do you how do I say this? During the entire conference, they will remind you of the rules of procedure and everything like that. They'll probably guide you because that is what happens at least on our end. Like for the beginners, um, yeah, we instruct them on what everything has to be done so that they can learn. But I would like to put out there, guys, that okay, after many tutoring sessions and everything like that, you will learn on the spot. Like you can't really learn more on the tutoring sessions and everything like that. You will really when you're immersed, when you're actually in the conference, that is when you will learn. That is at least from my experience because I really had no idea in my first time. Like I was said, oh, screw it, I'll just do whatever. But then when I was in the conference, like I really understood the dynamics. That is how I learned actually. So yeah, you really need to, even though lectures are a guide, I think that the best way for you to learn the rules or procedure in the MUNs is when you're actually there. So yeah, but don't worry because the chairs will guide you because you're a beginner, right? So you're probably going to join beginner friendly MUNs. So yeah,
Okay, thank you so much, Robertson.
thank you so much.
I think there is no other question. Thank you to Bromerson for presenting great material exposure. We will now proceed to our next agenda, handing over the certificate to our second speaker. I invite the project leader of the webinar, Modern Nation, Arhamsha, to present the certificate. To Arhamsha, time is yours. I would like to take the documentation. I will count for 3, 2, and 1. Okay. Now for erect sign, like this, three finger like this. We'll count for 3, 2, and 1. Okay. Yes. All right. We will now continue to our last speaker, Sis Deniza Mustafina. Before we begin, allow me to introduce her briefly. Our third speaker is Deniza Mustafina. She is a graduate of International School of Almaty and has been a participant, winner, and even an initiator of several more international conferences. She participated in MIS-MUN 2023 at Miras Almaty, an international model United Nations conference, and continued her involvement at MIS-MUN 2024. That same year, she joined Asian MUN 2024, an international online conference, where she was selected twice as chair among 80 to 100 participants, serving in the UNHRC and UNCND Council on Issues of Substance Trafficking and Women's Rights. Most recently, in 2025, she joined AYMUN in Malaysia as one of only two delegates selected from Kazakhstan, representing the United States in the UNICEF Council among 63 delegates, where she earned the most outstanding delegate award. Alright, without further ado, let's welcome our third speaker, Sis Deniza Mustafina.
Hello, everyone.
Hello, Sis Deniza.
Yeah, good morning. I hope y'all are having a pleasant time at this event. So yeah, my name is actually Denisa, but told me that in Indonesia, Denisa is actually a male name. So if that bothers you in some way, you can just call me Denise, because my name actually has a French origin. So yeah, okay, I can see my presentation. Okay. So today, I want to speak not only about Model United Nations, but about your role and our role in building a future shaped by cooperation instead of conflict and dialogue instead of division. So, next slide, please. Currently, we live in a world where national borders cannot stop the challenges we face. For example, climate change, economic inequality, technological disruption, migration, political instability. All of those issues, they do not ask for passports. And actually, yet here is a provocative question for you. What do young people assume about global issues? And could some of those assumptions be wrong? So today we're going to talk about this topic. We're going to talk about the youth particularly, and about MUN in this context. Next slide, please. I'm going to present the core MUN skills and why youth matters in this endeavor. Yeah, next slide, please. So a little bit about myself. Here you can see the information about me. You can see my contacts. So if you have any questions, you should feel free to contact me afterwards. Thank you. Okay, so why does this topic matter? So, currently in the world, we see what is happening. For example, interconnected global challenges. Problems like climate change, pandemics, cyber attacks, economic crisis, they spread across borders, affecting every country, basically. And no country has the ability to solve it alone. Youth is becoming increasingly affected by this global policy. because decisions that are made today on education, technology, energy, migration, they will shape young people's careers, safety, daily lives for many years. Diplomacy has become a modern necessity, actually, because it is no longer optional. The only realistic method for countries to cooperate, prevent conflicts, manage interdependence is through dialogues and through diplomacy. Next one, please. Yeah, young people tend to have some misconceptions, some assumptions that are not particularly right. Young people think that issues can be too big for us because many assume global issues are beyond their influence. When it's, in truth, youth movements already shape environmental, social, economic reforms worldwide in any way. Diplomacy is for politicians. This is a common misconception for basically everybody. Modern diplomacy increasingly involves students, activists, researchers, local leaders, not only to observe, but to participate and be a diplomat themselves. Young people tend to think that their voice doesn't matter because who are they? They are just young people. But a single voice can influence a whole community. A unified youth voice can shape national and global agendas. So this is a very important fact to consider. Next slide, please. So, about MUN. Previous speakers have already explained a lot of things about MUN. I'm going to talk briefly about what MUN really is. MUN is truly a research platform because delegates, they learn to analyze real policies, understand countries' position, not only their country, but other countries also. They learn to study global systems with academic rigor. Negotiation training. This is crucial because participants practice making compromises, building alliances, and finding common ground with people who disagree with them, with various cultural opinions. So, yeah. I like to call MUN a diplomacy laboratory because it offers safe space to test out ideas, propose solution, and actually experiment with real-world diplomatic strategies and systems. And of course, MUN is a cultural bridge because students, they tend to interact with peers from different backgrounds from all over the world, gaining exposure to diverse viewpoints and communication styles of different nations and people with different backgrounds. Thank you. Next slide. However, we should perfectly understand that MUN is not a perfect United Nations conference simulation because real actual diplomacy, it involves political pressure. We can model it in the MUN, but this cannot be fully and directly replicated. So yeah, and MUN is not a performance contest because effective delegates, they prioritize listening to other delegates, having teamwork, and solve problems effectively, not just merely presenting their own speech. This is a very common mistake made by first-timers in MUN, and when you have a council of like 60 people and more people, when everybody just goes up the stage and barely present their own speech for like 1.5 minutes, then what are the solutions? Where the Q&A session? Yeah, because their material, it takes time. It takes their whole time. So no time to actually answer questions and actually engage in the debates. So yeah, next slide, please. MUN gives opportunity to practice various skills important not only during the conference but actually in everyday life in your future careers. Public speaking, of course, because delegates learn to express ideas clearly, confidently, and persuasively in front of diverse audiences. Research and analysis. Students develop the ability to interpret data, understand policy frameworks, this is important, and identify key interests in a conflict. This is important for the future careers also. Negotiation. Yeah, this is also a very important skill because participants during MUN, they actually learn how to influence other delegates, create compromises, and move groups towards shared effective solutions. Next slide, please. Coalition building. MUN essentially teaches how alliances are formed, straightened, and used to generate meaningful outcomes. Because if you are forming a block and discussing a solution that is not particularly valuable for your committee and for your discussed issue, this is not going to help and help this all MUN purpose. So you need to form a block that is actually working to benefit the whole community, the whole council, instead of just being a leader. So yeah, cultural empathy. Delegates learn to consider different worldviews and appreciate cultural influences and political decisions based on it. So this is very crucial too. Um, During MUN, you will and you must get your network working with people with different cultural backgrounds, different viewpoints, and you should always be respectful. You should always be tolerant to all people you meet. So this is very crucial. Next slide, please. So, why youth matter in MUN? First of all, young people are creative. They bring unconventional ideas and innovative perspectives, and it can lead to fresh solutions that actually can help the whole world in the future. Technological fluency. Yeah, this is not a secret that young people, they adapt quickly to digital tools, and those tools are increasingly central in modern diplomacy now and in global advocacy. Moral courage. Young activists often speak boldly against injustice, unburdened by political or institutional constraints. We have seen countless examples right now in the world where young people, they shape their own justice. And I am impressed by several examples of this. I'm not going to state those examples, but I think we all know what I'm talking about. So this is the kind of courage that we seek in MUN delegates, and this is very important fact to consider. Diverse perspectives. Young communities reflect multiple cultures, identities, and lived experiences, and this is essential for inclusive diplomacy. MUN, the core principle, I would say, of MUN is to consider every viewpoint and hear every voice. So this is really important to consider because at MUN, everybody gets a chance to speak, and chairs actually encourage people to speak. Even if it's their first time, they should open caucuses, they should present their speeches, they should answer questions. And this really brings this inclusive diplomacy to life. Yeah, thank you. Next slide. Engaging in global affairs. I would encourage you to actually be active in MUN. You should join conferences, lead communities, draft resolutions, and engage in debates to gain real diplomatic experiences. It is actually important to participate in various MUNs, because I've participated in MUNs in Kazakhstan, I've participated in MUNs in Malaysia, and online, like Asian MUN, where I was chairing two committees. And I noticed many differences among them. So you should find the MUN that you will be comfortable in, because this actually matters. Follow global news. Actually, stay informed through credible, diverse sources to build a deeper understanding of global issues. When you will participate in MUN, you should already have knowledge about the topic you will be discussing about. So, please stay informed and go through the sources, only reliable sources that you find, not only about your country, but consider the global political arena, so you would know that you're talking about. Debate across differences. I already talked about it, but this is very important, to talk with people who disagree with you. Basically, this strengthens critical thinking and prevents intellectual echo chambers, if you know what this means. So basically, every voice needs to be heard. I will state this fact multiple times, so be patient with me. And another great thing to consider is to actually get involved in organization working on human rights, climate, peace building, education. This is important to create real world impacts. You can just Google those organizations, and like worldwide organizations, and those organizations in your particular country, so you will know what I'm talking about. But this is important, so you know that agenda, and so you stay actually informed with everything that is happening, and you're making a real impact. Okay, thank you. Next slide. So, the responsibility of future leaders. Okay, next slide, please. So, I'm going to talk to you about the effective leadership that you should demonstrate during your MUN experience. Facing uncomfortable truths. Yes, this is a fact that we should absolutely consider, because effective leaders acknowledge hard realities even when they challenge personal beliefs or political ideals. I believe the previous speaker has already talked about that, but this is very crucial, because during MUN, you could be assigned to a country that holds particularly different beliefs than your country and you personally. And MUN is a role play, so you should absolutely stick to the script, and you should behave like as if you were a delegate of this country. You your personal beliefs into MUN, because this will absolutely ruin the simulation. I mean, you should be ethical, and you should bring your moral principles, but if those principles don't align with your particular country, then you should let go of those principles during the MUN, so the simulation will be effective. Challenging assumptions. Real diplomacy begins by questioning your own biases, not just others' arguments. Yeah, I would say this is a true statement, because you should, the first thing you should do actually is to listen to others, and see how you can adjust your speech and your interests, so that they will align with countries that you want to pair with, for example. making a dialogue with integrity. Leaders speak honestly and listen respectfully and commit to solutions that promote fairness and peace. During MUN, you will hear and see things that you will absolutely not agree with. And I understand that this could be a little disorienting when people talk about issues that you have knowledge in, and they talk about it in a different way that you think about it. You should consider every viewpoint, and you should develop your strategy during the MUN. Like, how will you debate, how you will present your resolution? You should consider everything you have heard and everything you have discussed during this. And an important skill of an effective leader during this debate is to be able to actually listen. Okay, thank you. Next slide. So basically, my message in this presentation is to every student here. Basically, do not underestimate the value of your own voice. Do not assume diplomacy is beyond your reach, and do not wait for permission to lead. Because the world, it needs thinkers, mediators, innovators, people who believe that cooperation is still possible. And I hope that today's discussion actually inspires you to participate in more and more MUNs and be real with yourself, be real with people that you meet. So I think this is an amazing webinar. Actually, I made my material a little bit shorter, but if you want, and if you have the time, I would actually be happy to speak about my own experiences and make this Q&A session a little bit longer. So yeah, thank you.
Okay.
Okay.
Thank you to Sis Denise for presenting great material exposure. We will now proceed to our next agenda, the Q&A session. For participants who would like to ask a question, please feel free to write it in the chat column, and I will hear it out for our speaker. Okay, from Rasha Delia Hausa. Since delegates are expected to represent their country's stance accurately, how can beginners ensure they don't misrepresent the assigned country while still actively participating?
Okay, actually a great question. As we all know, MUN assigns countries randomly, like basically, usually, I mean. But when you are assigned with a country, for example, you are assigned with, for example, Kazakhstan, where I'm from, and you don't know anything about the country. When you are making a position paper about your country's position, so Kazakhstan's position, you should absolutely consider learning about this country's beliefs. I don't know. You should consider learning about its people, because in Kazakhstan we have people of many nations. So you should consider learning the um, main and core moral implications while presenting as a Kazakhstani delegate. So when you are composing your position paper, you should absolutely just learn about a country in general. So this will actually help you in your MUN experience, so you will not misinterpret any of your country's beliefs and agendas. So yeah.
Okay, thank you, Sis Dennis. Then is there any question for others? Other question? Okay. Okay, from Ajeng. How do MUN activities inspire participants to embrace leadership qualities rooted in empathy, negotiation, and open mindedness, rather than authority and competition?
Yeah, so thank you for agreeing with me. And I think we should, like, before we go to MUN, we should have an idea about what this conference really is and what this conference is not. So we will not betray our own expectations. So yeah. I believe we have another question. How do MUN activities inspire participants to embrace leadership qualities rooted in empathy, negotiation, and open-mindedness rather than authority or competition? Great question. I will tell you about my most recent MUN in 2025, AMA, Malaysia. I was delegate of the United States of America. And I was completely embracing my role as an American delegate because we all know America is actually tell what America is and what America isn't. But America cares about leadership, and America is, you know, it can sometimes act egotistically, I would say. So yeah, I was embracing this role a little bit too much, and I was basically working for myself rather than for the whole committee because I just wanted to have fun at this point. I wouldn't say this is a great strategy. I would say you should benefit the committee and you should obviously work for the committee. But when you are assigned with a country that is authority based and you should act like that, you shouldn't make my mistake. You should obviously play your role, but don't forget about the leadership through how you said empathy, negotiation, and those absolutely good qualities. So probably you should just spend more time researching a country and trying your own different strategies based on this country. So this is a matter of only experience and your own personal choices, because like if you don't aim to win any awards, because I didn't aim to win any awards, you should just do you and do your country. So I would say this is my advice. Okay, next question. Should delegates be allowed to deviate from real world foreign policy if it leads to a more effective solution? Interesting question. It depends on the range of your deviation, basically. Because if you deviate to a point that it is not possible in the real world, then I believe you shouldn't do that. But you should absolutely consider your opinions, like those strategies. You should absolutely consider them. But if they won't make an impact on, for example, actual UN conference, then this is just pointless. You should learn to come up with the example based on what you have and what you're working with. So yeah. Next question is from Jasmine. If I want to contribute, but I'm not confident in my country research yet, what's the best approach to avoid saying something inaccurate? First of all, don't be afraid. If you say something inaccurate, nothing terrible would happen. I would say. But you should absolutely, like, if you're not confident, you should bring your laptop to MUN. So you can do like last minute research. For example, you have some kind of caucus, like moderate caucus, and you want to participate, but you are not sure on what to say. Your country's like research. You should just prepare for that. You should briefly compose like bullet points of what you want to say and basically just research those points very briefly before the moderate caucus starts. So yeah, but actually, nobody, no delegate can research his country to the fullest because it is not his country. He does not live here, and I would say you should just not be afraid. Just say what you think is right, but be careful with what you say because you don't want to get too I don't know, you don't want to bring your own biases to this. So yeah, I hope this helps.
Okay. Are there any more questions, guys? Okay, thank you for everyone who participated in the Q&A session. We will now move on to the next agenda, handing over of the certificate to our last speaker. I invite the project leader of the webinar modernization, Arhamsha, to present the certificate. Arhamsha, time is yours. Okay. We also like to check the documentation. I will count for 3, 2, and 1. Okay. Now for if sign like this, shooting like this. We count for 3, 2, and 1. Okay. Thank you so much, Miss Denise.
Yeah, thank you very much. This was an amazing experience. I wish you all the best. Thank you.
Okay. With the certificate presentation finished, I will hand the session back to our Master of Ceremony. First thought the model recognitions was only for the experts. We are the BLI Global Champion MUN, the biggest beginner-friendly MUN in Indonesia. In January, we'll join the teach best competition, be guided by professional and experienced peers, and receive personal feedback to help you grow, all in a beginner-friendly environment. You earn the international certificate celebrated by or Indonesia's National Achievement Center under Indonesia Ministry of Education, which you can use for applying to top universities and sponsor for application, gain confidence, build networks,
Terapkan learning process skills that will use for life. So, what's stopping you? Your MUN journey starts here. Global Millennial MUN now, the biggest beginner to shine in Let's Make Yourself Be Borderless. Globi, #1 coaching for international competitions. I always thought the model recognitions was only for the experts. Until I found Global Millennial MUN, the biggest beginner-friendly MUN in Indonesia. In GMI, you'll join an age-based competition, be guided by professional and experienced chairs, and receive personal feedback to help you grow, all in a beginner-friendly environment. You'll earn the international certificate curated by Puspertas, or Indonesia's National Achievement Center, under Indonesia Ministry of Education, which you can use for applying to top universities and scholarship programs. Gain confidence, build networks, and learn diplomacy skills that you'll use for life. So, what's stopping you? Your MUN journey starts here. Global Millennial MUN, the biggest beginner-friendly MUN in Indonesia.
Thank you, Jahya, for accompanying us and becoming a really great moderator today. Thank you for our amazing speaker, Jamerson Senza Eskaro, Deniza Mustafina, and Sisnadira Rahma. I hope we will get benefit from today's session. With the end of handing over certificate to our last speakers, it's also became the end of our event today. Before we end this meeting, I want to remind you once again, all participants are expected to complete the Google form provided as proof of attendance for this Zoom webinar. Please remember the certificates will only be distributed to those who have submitted the form. We will now give 2 minutes for anyone who has not filled in the link yet. On behalf of the committee, I apologize if there are any mistake in holding this event. I'm Karisa as the Master of Ceremony of Webinar Model United Nations. Thank you and good afternoon, everyone.